big dog. What up, everybody? Welcome to Coffee Hour. My name is Paul Abernathy. If you don't know who I am, where the hell you been? I've been doing this for almost 40 years, online for probably over 20 years, back when it was AOL and you had to listen to that upload and the speed was so slow. But thanks for joining me today, spending time out of your day here at Coffee Hour, the only electrical specific show anywhere, whether it's on TV or on the internet, the only one that comes to you live every day to talk about the National Electrical Code and all things electrically related, have a little conversation with you, get your day started, share it with other electricians around the water cooler, and join us to have conversations, to dig into things. And that's what we're here for. We're here to learn a little bit, ask questions, and again, you can ask questions that are specific electrical code, but you can also ask business-related questions. You can ask anything you want here on Coffee Hour. If it's very detailed and it's very technical, we're going to ask that you go to paulabernathy.com and submit it through that portal, because that's the right way to submit a very detailed question. If it's just something that I can answer, I'll do my best. So when you post your questions, just take that and understand that I'm going to look at the question to determine whether or not I feel it is a bit too much for this lesson for us to go down that rabbit hole, because I might need to explain some details. But that's what consultants do, right? We don't just quote things out the top of our head. We have to research it. And sometimes we know the answer, but we want to make sure that we give it to you in the best way we can. So that's why you want to use paulabernathy.com for very technically specific questions that are going to be beneficial to you, rather than just hear us ratchet jaw here on a live session. But of course, we will do our best to answer whatever we can, the best we can. But sometimes, you know, it's one of those things where when you answer people's questions, especially live, you may not capture the flavor of what they're actually asking, or how much they're asking, or what the detail. And I can't read your mind, so sometimes it takes a little interaction to do that. Before I get started, we'll do some shout outs. As always, I live vicariously through you folks every morning, and I enjoy my day coming down here in the office and grabbing some coffee, saying hello to everybody, and getting my day started as well. So I appreciate you. You helped me get started. But I'm here as a resource, and I always want you to remember that I'm here as a resource to be able to answer questions for you and give you some insight. I get a lot of calls from people asking very personal questions. What you share with me is between me and you. You know more about me than most people, educators, will want you to know, that type of thing. I'm an open book, but I'm also somebody who wants to make sure that you walk away from every session at least learning something. Maybe you don't get an epiphany, but you learn something, okay? And that's important. And I want you to take away something. All right, so do me a favor. In the chat, let me know who you are, where you're from, what you got going on. Okay, I love knowing what you got going on. Paul's letting us know he's working on some signs. He's up on the lifts. I love it. I love seeing you guys active. Let me know if you're going to be heading into some crawl spaces today. Want to know any of my stories where I came face to face with a big old black snake underneath a crawl space one time. The crawl space wasn't but about 10 inches high, and I was under there because I thought I could get under there. I don't think I could fit today, but I did then, and damn if I didn't look up, and I was, not good. And it wasn't as easy to go backwards, okay, when you're 10 inches. Anyway, let us know. I love hearing your stories. You want to hear any of my war stories, I'm more than happy to share those with you. We do have a question today that Brandon sent me that we will be answering today, so I know you're here, Brandon, so we're going to answer your question today on your question. I'll read it out. I don't have it set up on screen because I think you sent it this morning. But if you don't mind, I'll answer your question here for everybody. And I'll kind of play it out so that they understand what the question is, so everybody can learn from it. We are going to be finishing up, or trying to finish up, our issue with overcurrent protection. Very high level view, talking about circuit breakers today, kind of a quick look at things like trip curves. But at the end of the day, very high level. Remember, we have lessons, we sell courses. So this is supposed to be, Coffee Hour is supposed to be light. It is, I think, a misconception by some folks, as that this morning session is like a supplemental to their Fast Tracks program, or this is like the old Wednesday nights that we used to do. It is not. Coffee Hour is an open, relaxed conversation. Get your day started. It's a place that you can come every morning on your way to work. You're driving, you're listening. We don't have that in the industry. So that's what we tried to create, is somewhere where you can ask questions and not fear a fear. If you go to Facebook and all these, you don't know what you're asking. You don't rely on the answer, and they'll tell you anything. And you can end up down any rabbit hole that's going to lead you to misleading other people. We don't want that. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, back it up. But again, I am not one of those guys that are holier than thou that can't communicate with people. People are always stunned when they call the office. 95% of the time, they're going to talk to me. Why? Well, because I feel like I'm the best person in this company to answer your question. I have people that do what they do. Jeff does what he does. Darlene does what she can to still help. So at the end of the day, and my third party folks, they're just here to help with the scripts that we create and things that we do in the background. And I have one IT guy. So at the end of the day, I'm the best one to answer these questions. Okay. I'm not some talking head on YouTube. Okay, I serve on Code Making Panel 5 and 17. In fact, next week I will be out in Vegas. If you're out there, look me up, and love to chat with you. Get to meet you if you're there. I'm going to stay at the Mandalay Bay, so I'm at the Mandalay Bay where the conference is. So if you're out there, look me up. I love to see you. I love talking to people. I love seeing people at the shows and the conferences and saying what's up. And you know, you come up to me, people come up to me and say, Paul, I got my license, or I achieved this or that, or I'm running my business. And I love it. I love hearing every part of it. Okay. How your success. To you, it may be like, well, it's not a big deal. To me, it's a huge deal. I love hearing it. So with that said, folks, let me know in the comments, name, where you at, where you're from, what you got going on. If you're a fast track student, we'd love to hear it. Let me know honestly what you think of the program. Hey, honesty. The one thing I can say about our program, it's a lot of reading, but it's designed in a way to go back and forth in the code book. It's not brain surgery. Our programs are not brain surgery. Okay, we're not selling any snake oil. It is all based on a methodology of studying. I could just use the code book and do our course. It would work. It's the methodology of the studying. It's how you go in and out, in and out, in and out, those type of things. Okay, so that's an important thing. Also, I don't remember September, somewhere around that. I'm going to be also in Chicago, going to the NECA. So if you're in Chicago area, and you want to go to a great show, then you want to go to NECA, because that's where all the manufacturers are at, and you can look at all the new stuff, ask the manufacturers those pressing questions that you wanted to ask them. And I'll also be there at the Encore Wire Prismium booth. So if you want to come by and say, hey, I'll be there. Love to see you. All right. So I don't know the date. Go searching for the 2025 NECA show in Chicago, and you'll get the dates. I'll be there for most of the show, I believe. And so I'm not teaching anything at NECA anymore, because they want me to stay in the booth to answer questions about products and installation and all that. So again, you have to come by the booth. I don't know the booth number. You have to look it up, but it's Prismium and Encore Wire booth. That's if I'm still employed. We never know if I may be employed or not. You never know. All right. All right. Let's go look at some folks. Say, hey, let's shout out to some of our peeps, some of our people in the house. What's up, John? Thank you, John. Glad to have you here. Welcome to the show. What's up, Adam? Good morning. All the nerds got his coffee in hand. He's ready to go. Brandon, I see you in here down in Houston. Okay. Good morning. We will be answering your question today, Brandon, so hang in there. What's up, Jonathan? Battles Electric. Hey, good morning. Friday Eve. Friday? Is it Friday or is it Thursday? Jonathan, what day are you at? Where are you at, Jonathan? This is maybe it's your Friday. Right? This is Thursday, bro. You sound like my wife. She never knows what day it is. And I ask her, I say, you need to know what day it is. She goes, oh, dude, I'm retired. I don't care what day it is. It's always Friday for her. So what's up, Rob? Okay. Good morning. Shouting out to Paul on the scissor lift. Up there doing some, hanging some signs stuff. What's up, JPB? Good morning. Huntsville, Alabama's in the house. Glad to have you here. Pedro, good morning. Glad to have you there, Pedro. Glad to have you here. Over on YouTube, watching on our, probably the most popular of the places to watch is, other than people are starting to watch now, over on our Fast Tracks tube. But did you know that if you're a Fast Tracks You can actually go and watch over on fasttracksystem.com as well. So there's now under the navigation a link for you to be able to watch Coffee Hour there as well. It's the same concept as over on Fast Tracks Tube, but you can go watch. And you can watch the replays there as well. We have a separate channel for the replays in case you want to watch any of the replays. Okay. Wife is good. Woke up this morning. She knows who I am, so that's a positive. Okay. What's up, Red Dog?
Woo, woo, woo,
Buenos
woo.
dias.
Big dog.
All right. All you folks out in California, I am sorry what you're going through out in California. Everybody knows my opinion. I'm not going to get political, but I believe that this country is a melting pot that allows everybody to be here. My only beef is that you have to be here legally. So for all of you out there and all of you Mexican Americans, and I always call you that, when you come to this country, you're an American first. Okay? Don't be waving the flag of a country somewhere else and you're wanting to stay here. Okay? If you're in America, you're American. Okay? Do it the right way. Then we want you here. I want all nationalities here. Okay, I love it. You know, I am somebody that believes we are a melting pot, but do it right. And I know it's tough to do things right, just like licenses. People say, I don't want to get a license because I got to wait a certain number of years. So sometimes people shortcut things and do things wrong. It's worth the journey. It is worth the journey. I do not understand what's going on around the country. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go on a tangent, but I hate watching TV anymore, because it's all it's about. And I'm like, dude, we live in the most wonderful country in the world with the freedoms. Now, you can have your freedoms taken away. You can break the law. You can do things you're not supposed to do and get in trouble and have those freedoms taken away. Then don't cry about my freedoms. If you came in this country illegally, you broke the law. You're thinking, even if you were here for 20 years later and they finally deport you for some reason and you have family members, you knew what you were doing. I get it. This is a land of opportunity. This is a beautiful country. California is beautiful, but do it the right way. I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying. Let's see here. Where we at? Enough of that. What's up? Manny's in the house. Shouting out to the Code Nerds over on Facebook today. That's a cute dog, Manny. It looks like either a pug or a one of those little mini bulldogs, whatever. Let's see here. Good morning, Rob. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Paul, say good morning, everyone. Fishing dude, you're taking a break today after those signs. You're fishing in like Sabine Lake today, Texas-Louisiana border, and you still are watching the show. Hold on, that's what I'm talking about. That's dedication right there. That is dedication. What's up, Ray? Jay? Sorry. Okay. I have an aversion to Jays. So welcome, Jay. Love the cat, too. I don't have a cat. My last cat passed away, and we moved and everything. We got 3 dogs, and I miss my cats, though. I love my cats. There you go. Got to walk through some final completion of some big soft starts. There you go. Got to do that walkthroughs. Working in a food factory, a lot of stainless. Okay, a lot of stainless steel everywhere. Food grade stainless. There you go. Let's see. What are you doing, Jonathan? Finishing a cabin in BFE, and it's beautiful. BFE. I'm for the life of me, I don't understand those that acronym. Let me know. Oh yeah. All food grade, stainless steel everywhere, baby. Keep it clean. What's up, Greg? Thank you for joining us today. Let's see. Adam says a quick question. I'm going to have to pop this up a couple times for everyone. And what do you think about the new white Leviton panels? Good, bad, the ugly? I've seen them. I have not worked on any. I've talked to quite a few people that have looked at the Leviton. It's white. It's different. A lot of people swear by them. Sometimes they're a little more expensive, but my brother says not so much. It's not that big of a difference. I think they're different. I think that they can get expensive where some of those breakers can be smart breakers and it can get expensive. But if you're just thinking about normal, regular breakers, I think they're neat. I think it's what's unique about them is how you can trim this thing out, and you put the breakers in later. So the old traditionally where we used to trim it out, leave the conductors until we do the finish out, and then we come in and trim it out. Kind of neat in a sense now that you can go on and finish out that panel and make it look neat, before you put any breakers in. I think that's pretty cool concept. Okay. So I think that I have not seen any bad things about them personally. And I think it's just a preference and choice. For me, I was always an Eaton guy, that type of thing. But, at the end of the day, I know many people that like Homeline as well as the QO. QO is a more expensive version for Schneider. I know people that swear by it. It's a brand thing, Ford, Chevy. Some people don't want to go outside of the box and try something new. I think the Leviton looks cool. I haven't had any personal experience with it, that type of thing. So anybody does, shout out in the comments. Make sure it's real experience and not just opinion. If you have something negative to say about a Leviton or something like that, make sure it's from an experience rather than let's not propagate falsehoods and things like that we just assume by looking at it that we're not going to like it, that type of thing. Make sure we always back up our stuff. We're all about the facts here. Let's see here. Working with us. Let us know, Adam, how you work with it, what you think about it, that type of thing. What's up, Van Man? Good morning. Glad to have you here on the show, as always. Jay, I'm coming to your town. Are you Vegas? Well, if you're holler, if you're in town, you're in the area, come on by the Mandalay Bay or text me, or contact me and let me know. Come in. I'll take you out to dinner. I'll take you to, I don't get a rental car and I don't go anywhere in Vegas. I usually just stay at the hotel and I really don't walk the strip anymore. And most certainly after the last couple of days when I saw people getting shot out on the damn strip, people are crazy today. People say, why do I carry guns when I'm locally? And I said, because people are crazy today. The world has gone batshit crazy for most people. Not you normal guys. They're workers, electricians. Y'all are workers. But for these other things, man, they just gone crazy. So I don't know. I don't go to those places. What's up, Jonathan? Thank you. Tyrone's in the house. Tyrone here out of Winder, Georgia, 15 minutes from Athens, installing a new water heater powered. There you go. Get it, Tyrone. Make that money. Let's go. Alberto, welcome. Glad to have you here. North Carolina. Love North Carolina. Hopefully going to get down to the Outer Banks this summer or the end of the summer. I told my wife that I'm looking at a place on the Outer Banks. Not really, but I kind of have one of those rental places that I like that we used 15 years ago when we used to go. And I'm going back to them because of loyalty. I'd been there before, but the OBX rentals or vacation rentals, whatever it is. So I got to get us back to North Carolina. We love it down there. Let's see here. So yeah, I'll probably get down there, probably the Outer Banks, not to teach, but to get down and enjoy some life. Okay, life is short. You got to enjoy it. What's up, Santana? Good morning. Miles Mahoney Music. Miles, you remind me. Your name reminds me that Jeff is still trying to, unless we got it or not, Jeff is still trying to get your address for your ultimate coin. So maybe you have it, you send it, and we're getting confused or something with the name because it's Miles Music. Just do me a favor, put attention, Paul and Jeff. Send us another email at support, SUPPORT, at fasttracksystem.com. And let us know what and give us your mailing address so we can get you that ultimate coin. I think that's only one of the few that Jeff was still waiting on. Let's see. Beto B, good morning. Glad to have you here over on Facebook. Oh, by the way, we are no longer streaming to Instagram. So I didn't get a lot of interaction from Instagram, folks. So we're not going to do it. What's up? Rombo, welcome in North Carolina. No, Rombo's in Tennessee. Yeah, I'm sorry, Rombo. Thanks for joining us. Glad to have you here. We're going to make it up there eventually and holler out at you. What's up, Pedro? California driving. San Francisco, be careful. Steer around the protests, my friend. Be careful. Let's see here. What do we got? Advance says, when you said if I'm still employed, you sound like a union traveler. Layoffs are coming and looming. No, it's just that I'm the expert for a very large company and there's other people there. Yes, I know a lot of stuff that is very proprietary to the wiring cable industry, but it's like with anybody. Now that I'm remote, when you're not under somebody's thumb and they're remote, they never know. But I handle a lot of technical stuff for them, get them out of a lot of stuff. But again, it's no longer Encore now. It's a bigger picture. So I can only hope they want to keep me. But again, I'm okay either way. But I'm here. I'm very loyal. I would never go to another wire and cable manufacturer. If they were to let me go for some reason or I quit, I still got my show. I still got my academy. I still got everything I do. I got the CME program. I got so much going on. I got Trade Hog. I got plenty of stuff to keep me busy. I sleep very little every night. I get to bed late and get up early. So, people say it's bad for you. I can't help it. It's just the way I'm wired, and I've done it for many, many years. So I'm good. But yeah, I heard rumors of some layoffs coming from some stuff. I hope not. I hope not. Let's see here. Rimbo says, "Do you have a lifetime membership?" Well, be honest with you, Rambo, when you buy a course or something like that, you get access to that course. But we don't have a lifetime membership on any platform, really, that type of thing. Somebody asked about doing a lifetime membership to the Fast Tracks Tube, but we've never really done that. So no, not really any lifetime membership things. Let's see here. Pedro agrees 100%. What's up, Alex? Using Mike from Outdoor. Alex needs to get Alex from Outdoors or whatever and get his own account. I'm just saying. Alex, just saying. Leo, what's up from Seattle, Washington, up there in Seattle where they do a lot of coffee stuff up in Seattle, Washington area, okay? Jonathan says out in Egypt, somewhere in Egypt. That's where he's at. There you go. Let's see. Good morning from New Jersey. Good morning, Joseph. Thanks for joining us from up in New Jersey. Had somebody call me from New Jersey wanting to know about our courses, but they were telling me that their exam up there actually requires more than just an NEC for their master's exam, and we don't do anything but the National Electrical Code. So I get that call all the time. I tell people that I don't do law. I don't know. We have law and business partners on our website, but far as me, I only teach the NEC. It's kind of what I do. So I had to tell them, no, I don't. But if you want to learn the NEC, I tell them our program is available for you. Whether he joins or not, that's not sure. What's up, Marlon? Glad to have you here. Got your stuff, got your order, Marlon. Got your Marlon. Let me know what you want on your wallet. Maybe you've already told me, or maybe you already sent it. But again, the mind is always getting worse here as I get older. Let us know what you want on it. Just your name. I think you might have, but just to be sure, I know you ordered a minimalist wallet, I believe. Let us know what you want on it, just to make sure you want your name or you just want the thing on it. So just let us know. I just want to make sure that we get it right for you. What's up, Mike? Thanks for joining us, Mike. Charles, what's up? Glad to have you here. Good morning, Val. Good morning. Glad to have you here. I got quite a few of you. Email Val is always, you can go to paulavernathy.com and do it through the portal, or you can just do it to, most of our sites have a contact us, that you like fasttracksystem.com, the website right here. You can go to it and click the contact us and send it that way. Or you can just do it at support, SUPPORT, at fasttracksystem.com. That will make it here as well. What's up, Angel? Welcome. And Cray Cray, good morning. Cray Cray's in the house. I believe Nashville, right? Is that where you're at, Cray Cray, up in Nashville, Tennessee area? All right, let's go on and knock out this thing. What's up, Dan? I see you here, Dan. All right, let's knock out this little bit about overcurrent protection, part 2, and get into some other stuff. But before we do that, we're going to refresh your memory. Okay, we're going to refresh that memory, see if you remember from what we did yesterday. Okay, so we're going to do a little memory refresh. Okay, knowledge check. Anybody remember? Let us know in the comments. Get your juices flowing here. It says additional standard ratings for fuses. And notice it says additional, okay, because you have a list of standard fuses, but there are also additional standard ratings for fuses that are 1, 3, 6, and blank amperes. So what is the one that's missing right here? And where do we find this? Well, y'all familiar. We did it yesterday. Y'all know where in the NEC you go to find the list of standard type of overcurrent protected devices. These are standard. Doesn't mean you can't have a non-standard overcurrent protected device. Sure, they make them. But the list is for the standard type. And usually when the NEC is referencing something to the standard type, okay, that is where you're going to go. So everybody know where you go? And anybody know what the amp rating is for that would be additional standard ratings for fuses for a standard rating of fuses. Anybody know? I know you were here yesterday. Y'all remember. There we go. 601, 240.6a. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're getting it in the house. So it's 601. Okay, 601 again is designed for an 800 amp cutout box disconnect that is designed for a certain type of fuse that would fit. That would be typically designed for an 800 amp, but allows us to put this 601 in there in a 800 amp frame and still use it on a 600 amp type system, those type of things. So again, it allows for it to be able to make a unique fuse that can fit in something that may be a larger frame type of thing, or you're limiting it down to 601, but you're installing this fuse in an 800 amp type of fuse cutout box, that type of thing. All right. What about this? Define the maximum rating of a dual element fuse used for the motor branch circuit, short circuit, ground fault protection. You multiply the motor's FLC by what percentage? So if we're sizing a motor and we're using dual element fuses, what table do we go to? And what is the percentage that we're going to use? It's a percentage of the FLC, okay, using the FLC of that motor, which is in what? 430.248, 249, or 250, those type of things. That's where you're getting the FLC, as opposed to the nameplate, which is like the FLA. The nameplate's amps are based on other factors like all of the conditions and the efficiency of the motor and all that kind of stuff, whereas the FLC, which is in the code, is a hard number. That's so that if you replace a motor of that size, that you're typically going to be a little conservative by using the FLC for sizing conductors, short circuit ground fault protection, things like that, right? So that's why they do it. And I'm seeing some answers here, 175, beautiful. All right, y'all got it. And that is obviously what? Table 430.52. Yeah, that's that little ampacity, that little table that shows you the percentages, right? There you go, 430.52C1. Manny is on it today. That's what I'm talking about. All right, and Manny's wearing that beautiful Code Nerd green hoodie. That's what I'm talking about. All right, so testing fuses. On live circuits, extreme caution must be exercised when checking fuses. Using a voltmeter, the first step is to be sure to set the scale to the correct voltage. That should be a no-brainer for all you electricians if you're working with AC. Put it in AC, all right? Very, very little time are you going to be in DC unless you're troubleshooting something on a board, that type of thing. So that is operating through a rectifier that's actually giving you DC. Not going to be what most of you and I do. We want to make sure that we're on the right setting. Now, reading from the line to load side of the good fuse should show 0 volts or less in extremely low voltage. Again, so if you're also, one way to test a fuse is to check from one side to the other, and you should not see any variation in your voltage. So if you're doing, let's say 120, you're checking one line of a 242 set fuse, then you check one line to the grounded conductor or even to ground, and the other lead, you're going to be checking to the actual line side of the fuse. You'll get a voltage reading. Then check to the load side, you get a voltage reading, okay? Same thing on the other, okay? And that way you know the fuse is good, that type of thing. Now, when power is turned off, is the safest way to test. Now, this is another thing right here. People ask, for example, about working clearances at disconnects for HVAC equipment, for example. I get this question all the time. They ask me, do I need working clearance at an outdoor HVAC equipment and disconnect for the HVAC unit, the condenser? And the answer to that is yes. It has to have working clearance because chances are that is the place that you're going to be going if you're a technician checking before you start digging into the equipment. You're going to be right there making sure that I have the line voltage, that the fuses are okay, that everything's passing through fine, that you've got the right level of voltage, you didn't lose a leg anywhere. That's where you're going to be doing it because that's the easiest place to do it first. So, will you be testing it live? Yes. What does the code say? Well, it says that when you're going to do that, then you have to maintain working clearances. You have to make sure that if I'm working on the disconnect right there, that I'm not going to be locked down because I'm squeezing behind an air conditioning unit. We don't want that. Again, I get it. It's the chicken or the egg. Sometimes you put the disconnect there and technician comes along that puts the unit there and they put it right in front of the freaking disconnect. And you're like, dude, really? But they don't know your work, right? But they already run their line sets and everything like that. And everything gets that suction, refrigeration line. They run everything, right? And then you're screwed. And you're thinking, well, what do I do now? Well, that is when that disconnect becomes a junction box and you're going to end up having to move a disconnect further down and then reroute your conductors in order to get the disconnect further so that it has its working clearance. It sucks. It is what it is. It's the chicken or the egg. A lot of people will poke out their wire or their cable where they're going to put their disconnect, and then the HVAC folks come and set that unit. And they might still put it in front of the cable. Well, at least for that, if you have the ability for like a crawl space, then you could pull that cable back. Sucks for the siding guy, but that's their problem. Move it down and poke it back out, that type of thing. Or you still could do the junction box thing, okay, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, still got to have that working clearance. The only reason I bring that up is because you're going to be working on that energized to test for power. So you're testing. Okay. Now, most of the time, they're not going to pull open the air conditioning unit in order to test for anything yet. They're going to first start by making sure they got power there. Okay. So that's what that is. Now, when power is turned off, it's the safest way to test a fuse. Remove the fuse from the switch and then make a resistance reading across the fuse using an ohm meter. You can use a continuity tester to test across. It's fine too. An open blown fuse would generally show a high resistance reading or an open circuit indicator, right? But again, continuity tester is going to work fine across a fuse like that in order to get it to ring out to let you know that it's good. That type of scenario. Okay, makes sense. All right, just be safe. You guys know this. I'm not reinventing the wheel here when it comes to safety. You guys know it. Now there is a guy out there who put a video out on the internet using a 40 cal suit to just go into a panel. A little extreme, okay? Little extreme. Oh, also, hey guys, have y'all seen my little response video on TikTok to that? I don't do a lot of TikToks, y'all know that. We don't use it for lessons. I don't teach anything on TikTok anymore. But one of the things that I did is these home inspectors. These home inspectors will post everything, low-hanging fruit, like Cy Porter does, all of them, and they love this guy. But again, he just does cheeky videos that gets attention. But sometimes they do this, but they miss the big picture. And so the video I did, the guy missed an improper case to neutral right in his face. You watch the whole video. Never calls it out once. Prefers to call out little things, which are important, but he missed the big issue, the huge issue that has to be addressed. And again, so I say, I'm not talking down to the home inspector. I'm just saying sometimes we get so focused and stuff, and we've got a couple hours to get something done that you're so focused on the low-hanging fruit that you miss the root of a problem. And that's an example. And that's all I was pointing out. I wasn't trying to flame the guy. I have a lot of good home inspector friends and all that stuff. That's not what I was doing. And hopefully I didn't, come across that way. I've tried not to. But to me, he missed the big, in that video, you can't cut strands off of conductors, and you do call it out. But you also, they miss the bigger picture. And that's the stuff that I put out. Tino says, is like a panel where is it like a panel where it has to be away from a window? There is no rule that says a panel has to be away from a window. It's individual conductors or open conductors have to be 3 feet away from an openable window. Okay, you can go across the top and be less if the top part doesn't open, right? It's above it. But if you're to the side and front, if it's open conductors, you have to be 3 feet away. If it's in a raceway can run right by the window. A panel can be perfectly beside a window. Believe it or not, a panel can be right next to a sink. It's not a problem as long as it has its working clearance. As long as the panel door can open up 90 degrees. Okay, we might not like where it's at, but as long as we meet all the other rules, that is typically not going to be an issue for anybody. What's up, Angel? I see you in here. And I did see you sneak in here, Tino, from Houston down there. All right. Anyway, feel free to throw your questions in there like that. We always learn this. There's no dumb question. Please feel free to ask your questions. Okay. So in your career, you may run into a delta system, right? You may run into a three-phase corner-grounded delta B-phase system. All right, so it says an overcurrent device is required to be installed in series with each ungrounded conductor for overcurrent protection. Okay, so if I have conductors coming in and I have all of these conductors, then I have an overcurrent device has to be installed in each one of those ungrounded conductors to provide overcurrent protection based on 240.15a. Okay, so I do have our code book, and we can go just look at the code book because you know my rule. My rule, guys, is always if you're going to reference something in the code and you're studying in our program, then you take the time to go and look at your code. Okay, in and out, in and out, in and out of the code. That's what we're trying to do. All right, so we're in 243. We're talking ungrounded conductors, right? And here's where it says overcurrent device required. It says a fuse or an overcurrent trip unit of a circuit breaker shall be connected in series. Means it's coming in series, right? So you got the black conductor and you got the fuse. It's running through it in series, and then it's going out to the load. That's in series, okay? So in series with each ungrounded conductor. A combination of a current transformer and overcurrent relays shall be considered equivalent to an overcurrent trip unit. Okay, so depending on the different type of equipment you have, you may have a current transformer and you have an overcurrent relay. I think we had a question about that the other day. Is a relay considered the same as overcurrent? If it's an overcurrent relay in combination with a current transformer, then that can be considered an overcurrent trip unit together. Or considered equivalent. But that's all based on the makeup of the system. And you're usually buying something that way. You're not making these separately for different components. Okay, so the question is a relay the same as an overcurrent device? No, it's not the same as an overcurrent device. When we're used in conjunction with a current transformer, okay, then that would be considered equivalent to an overcurrent trip unit, okay? But again, a lot of that is typically only found in motor applications or motor control circuits and things like that. While we're here, by the way, you see this where it talks about circuit breakers as overcurrent devices, okay? And it says a circuit breaker shall open all ungrounded conductors of a circuit both manually and automatically unless otherwise permitted. And we've got some allowances down here. All right, that type of thing. So back to the lesson, in case we have anything we need to refer back to, we'll keep the code handy. It says the connection of one phase conductor to ground in a delta connection, three-phase system is sometimes called a corner grounded delta. I don't have a picture of that, but it's basically, y'all know a delta is a triangle format, and each one of these phases or windings. So that is truly, when you talk about a panel with three phase, that is phase to phase. When you talk about a single phase, which is typically a transformer that only has one winding that's center tapped, so it is 240, let's say, across the full winding, but to the center it's only 120. You can't say phase to phase in a single phase system because it's only one phase. That's why we say three phase, we call it a polyphase. It means it's more than one. So we can have phase to phase testing in a three phase system. But in a single phase system, we're not testing phase to phase. We're testing only one phase. We're testing from the extreme point of one phase to the other end of that phase and to the midpoint of that phase. So that's what you have because we're only dealing with one single phase. So that's why typically when we're talking about residential and we're talking 12240, which is a split phase, means it's splitting one of the phases. That's why we don't really, it's not the correct term to say testing phase to phase. That's why we say testing line 1 to line 2, or leg 1 to leg 2, or leg A to leg B, but it's all part of one winding. It's all what? Single phase, okay? So it can't be phase to phase testing, okay? Phase A to phase B, or phase 1 to phase, it's not, okay? Just food for thought, okay? When you hear the term testing phase to phase, we're really talking about three-phase systems or even two-phase systems, which are very rare, but they're still out there, okay? All right. It says, there is certain instances where a three-pole, three-phase switch may be installed, okay, where it is permitted to install fuses in two poles only. This would be the case for a delta three-phase corner grounded B-phase system. And this is a case where you have one of the phases which is intentionally grounded, and you do have specific types of applications where the code would permit you to have only fuses in what? Two of the phases, okay? And the third phase is actually a grounded, okay? Grounded conductor, okay? Rare, but you might run into that situation out in the field. I've only ran into this in an industrial application where I had this situation on a corner grounded delta system, and it was very specifically engineered for that application. Other than that, typically we're going to have fuses in all ungrounded conductors or circuit breakers in all ungrounded conductors to be able to break it and turn it off, okay? A solid neutral is made of copper bus or brass tubing that is exactly the same physical dimensions as a fuse for a given ampere rating or voltage rating, okay? So I don't have an example of what it's talking about, but typically what we're saying is most of the time when you get these panels that are made, that you're going to have the neutral is just a common bus, and you're going to bring your conductors in. Now, here's what's interesting. The neutral is still breakable, okay? It's still removable. It still can be taken apart. It usually comes in, it uses the bus to complete its chain. So we're putting the fuses in the, or circuit breakers in the ungrounded conductors, again, to protect them from short circuit, ground fault, and overload. But the neutral is typically going to be run to a common solid bus. It could be copper, that type of material. It could be some other type of material that's built into the actual frame of whatever the equipment is, and it comes from the manufacturer. So we don't typically have to do a whole lot for anything like that, okay? All right, very high level here. We're going to talk about it because you heard me talk about it yesterday when it comes to time curve characteristics. And there's a guy named Tom Dimitrovich who does a great job at explaining these things. He works for a manufacturer that makes circuit breakers, so I would expect him to understand these at some really high level, and he does a good job breaking them down. The good news for us as electricians, we're going to touch this very lightly, and then we're going to look at Brandon's question that he had. But when you're thinking about the characteristics in overlapping, this becomes extremely important when we're doing things like selective coordination. And the reason for that is for the folks that don't understand what selective coordination is, when the code dictates something be selectively coordinated, that means that if I have a breaker right here for this load and I have a main breaker up here, okay, then yeah, Jeremy, it's also some high legs, also called the bastard leg in many cases, yes. All right, so in this case right here, when it comes to selective coordination, I want to make sure that I clear the overcurrent device closer to where the incident is rather than having it trip something upstream. So if I have these certain trip curves where a breaker will unlatch or a fuse will blow, I want to make sure that I don't have the threshold on the one that's closest to the source versus closest to the source of the fault. I want to make sure that the trip curves aren't, this one right here is overlapping this one too much, so that when the fault happens here, instead of tripping the one that's closer to the fault, it ends up tripping the one that's further away, and that takes the entire system down. So we call that selective coordination. So basically we wanted to clear an overcurrent device as closest to where the fault takes place as possible so that it doesn't take out anything else that may be upstream, okay? And that is so important when you're dealing with things that are required, like emergency circuits and stuff like that. We have to make sure that everything is selectively coordinated. Those curves are in a way that they're not overlapping to a point where something further away will trip rather than the one that's closest to the actual problem. And so engineers do this, but to be honest with you, most of us as electricians, and even when I was in the field, I would glance at these curves, but at the end of the day, I always purchased my equipment based on what I wanted from the manufacturer, and I made sure they knew when I had to coordinate something. And I said, look, I'm buying this switchgear, I'm buying these breakers, I'm buying this down here at the load downstream, and this needs to be selectively coordinated. The engineer will make that very clear. This is a responsibility of the manufacturer, whether it's Square D, Schneider, whether it's Eaton, you're buying the equipment from them. So you want to make sure. Now, interesting thing about selective coordination is if I have two circuits from a panel to another panel, and this is 200 amp and this is 200 amp, then because they're the same rating and the same piece of equipment, then I don't have to worry about selective coordination. They're identical, Okay, so this one's going to trip before this one. Okay, so you don't get as big into selective coordination if everything's the same, then you're not really selectively coordinating. The real concept of selectively coordinating, like I said, is to make sure that it clears closer to wherever the incident is rather than something upstream. Okay, but you have some allowances in the code when you're doing selective coordination. If both of the pieces of equipment are identical, then you don't necessarily have to selectively coordinate them because they're identical. They're going to be at the same levels. Okay, that type of thing. A smart, practical design will always try to design a system, again, so it clears closest to the incident. I encourage you to go check it out on YouTube. I'm sure it's available. Tom Dimitrovich and them talking about trip curves. There's a lot of people that'll teach this stuff, but if you really want to learn from a manufacturer's perspective, then check out Tom's video. And it might be IAEI. So again, if you're searching on YouTube, type in Tom Dimitrovich or IAEI circuit breaker trip curves or something like that, and you'll find the video, that type of thing. And he does a great job explaining it because that's what he does. I mean, he works for a manufacturer that does that. So I would hope he would be very knowledgeable in that. And from what I've seen, he is very knowledgeable in that. Okay. All right. So let's looking at this here again. So an electrician must be able to use the following types of fuse data. Okay. And all you're really doing is making sure that you understand the concept. Hopefully the engineer is going to design this out. I don't know of any selective coordination system where the electrician is incumbent to design that type of system. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't. You could be somewhere where there's no engineer involved and you're the master electrician and you're designing the system as built, and you need to be aware of these things. You're going to have to do a little more education. We're not going to teach you everything you need to know about that in today. I'm going to tell you that right now. Okay, so here. So electricians that have that task at hand have to understand the time current characteristic curves, including total clearing, minimum melting, and average melting curves. Again, we're talking fuses. And the peak let-through charts. Okay, fuse manufacturers will furnish this information for each of their branch circuit fuses types that are manufactured. So a lot of the manufacturers, if you're going to be going with Cooper Bussmann, for example, and you're using fuses, they have documents, they have books, they have all the information you need. Please, folks, don't try to act like, I'm smarter than somebody else. I don't need to ask somebody else. Guys are famous for that, right? We get a ceiling fan, one of those new ceiling fans, and the first thing you do is throw out the instructions. Hey, ain't no shame in my game. Everything that I install, I look at the instructions. I don't care if I did 1 million ceiling fans because they come from all over the place. I'm always got the instructions right there in case I want to refer back to it, that type of thing. But we're guys. We just like to do it by looking at the picture. I get it. I love this recently. It was cute. Video by, I don't know if you watch Philly Queso. He's over on TikTok and everything. He's an electrician from Philly. And he's just an everyday guy, everyday electrician. Does he sometimes not follow code? He says, yeah, do I ever? But I like him because he's genuine. And I think he's funny. And he knows that he's got me on speed dial. He can call me anytime he wants me, has a question for me. I think he's a great guy. He's very entertaining. But he's a getter. He's out there. He's doing. And it's neat to watch somebody like that do it. That type of thing. So I do think his stuff is pretty interesting. His name is Philly Queso, and I don't know, believe it or not, I don't know his real name. That type of thing. Yeah, I'm saying. But funny, he was installing a TV supports on the wall for a wall hanging TV, and he was doing it, and he pulled out the instruction. He goes, "Do we follow the instructions?" No, and that type of thing. And he used the picture that was on the box. And you know what? There's so many few pieces that you can do that. It's non-electrical, okay, that type of thing. And, it's common sense. But I like how I thought it was funny how he did that. Okay. All right, circuit breakers. Let's talk about circuit breakers. Yeah, Jonathan, I always use instructions even if absolutely. And another thing that I do, folks, and you should get into this, a little tip, is as an electrician, when I'm doing houses, whether I was finishing the house, I take all of the instructions that I get for anything, whether it's ceiling fans, GFCIs, whatever it is, I always keep them and put them in a plastic box. So I had a plastic box. It was a job site box. All my guys had one in their trucks. And it would basically be for that job, putting all of the instructions for anything, especially on the finish, anything, water heaters. If you're wiring up and they leave you the water heater, take the manual, throw it in the box. HVAC unit, they're notorious for leaving these things laying all over the place. No, as an electrician, you be the neat person. You take it, you put it in the box. And once you get everything together, then what I typically do, we'll take it into the kitchen on the final and actually open up the cabinet drawer or above the cabinet. And I take all of those documents and I put it in there for them. And that tell them. So I tell whoever, I say, all of the manuals that I've been associated with, that I've come in contact with, all right, are in that shelf or in that drawer. And that's the way I do it. And that way, if an inspector ever comes through, right, and says, I want to see the instructions for something, which they can do at any time, then, for example, maybe you put a exhaust fan in a bathroom, and maybe you put that exhaust fan inside of the shower space up high, and maybe there's rules on it that says that it has to be GFCI protected, and it's not. And the inspector comes in and says, well, I think that's supposed to be GFCI protected. You say, no, it's not. Well, then he might say, well, I want to see the manual for that. Otherwise, you'd have to, it's you versus them. So at the end of the day, it's just easier to save it. So it's so quick to chuck that stuff out, but that's a tip of the day. As electricians, let's remember we're professionals. Let's make sure we keep all manuals, throw them in a box, throw them in a Tupperware box, whatever. What's up, Jason? Good to see you here. What's up, Frank? Glad to have you here. And make sure that we, at the end of our project, that we give them to the homeowner so there's nobody can say we didn't give them the manual. Okay, people say, well, that's petty, Paul. That's a professional thing. I treat electrician as a professional. Okay, I was professional. My name was on everything. I never went nasty to a job site. Never had holy jeans. I always looked the part, talked the part, gave very concise explanations for everything that I'm doing. It's the way you carry yourself. Because again, be very proud, dude. Y'all are licensed electricians, people that are studying. Be proud of what you do. Again, I tell you right now, I am just as proud of an electrician that carries himself, looks very good, and has all the things that they need to look professional than I am for any lawyer, any doctor, or anybody else, okay? Being an electrician is a noble profession. Let's not sloppy it down by not looking professional. It's just my advice. You do what you do, boo. But I'm telling you, I take pride. You earned it. Take pride in it. You have that license. Take pride in it. You earned it. Right? It might take you a bit to get there. The journey sometimes is tough. But once you get it, be proud of that damn license. I'm just saying. All right, let's go. So molded case circuit breakers are common type used today. That's what you're going to find in most of your panels. They snap right in, plug in. Although you do have some of these molded type circuit breakers that are bolt in for as well. That will go in more commercial type panels. But most of the residential are going to be simple plug in, that type of thing. Another type of power circuit, another type is the power. So we have the molded case, which is pretty much what you're going to see in a residence, right? Then you have another type called a power circuit breaker, often referred to as an airframe circuit breaker. These power circuit breakers are larger and of heavier construction than a molded case circuit breaker. Typically what you're going to see for motors and equipment in commercial, maybe not so much light commercial, because again, if you're doing like tenant fit outs, they're probably going to be just molded case. But when you start getting into other things with motor control center applications and things, then you're going to get more into what's called the power circuit breakers, and they're going to be a little more robust, a little heavier construction than a normal molded case circuit breaker. And of course, the price is going to dictate that. Okay, that's one of the first things you'll notice. Still, another type of circuit breaker is an insulated case circuit breaker. It is a hybrid between a molded case circuit breaker and a power circuit breaker. Okay. All different types. Now, here's some advice that I recommend if you get an opportunity, is to go to the manufacturers. And they have websites, Schneider, Square D, whatnot, or if you have a rep. Look, and then also recommend this when you go to trade shows like NECA and you roll up on these are questions that I'll tell you to remember. When you're going to shows or you're going maybe to a local trade show that's at your local supply house, and you have Schneider there or Eaton folks there, make sure you ask them to show you, put in your face, the molded case circuit breaker, the power circuit breaker, and what? The insulated case circuit breaker, or what we call the hybrid. It's a mix between the both. make sure they put those in your hand. You can see them. Okay, you're going to really tell what a molded case circuit breaker is because it's going to be the cheapest, and it's what you would typically put in a residential or light commercial panel. When you start moving further than that, you're getting more into power circuit breakers. The bolt-ons are typically power, but you can also get into the more hybrid type of stuff. But it's going to be hard for me. I don't have images for you. So again, these are questions to remember as an electrician. Ask somebody. Ask the representative for Eaton or Schneider and say, can you put them in my hand? Or better yet, say, can you send me to your catalog so I can see the difference between these and read some of the specifications? It's all about knowledge. You should be striving to learn something new every day. You're thinking, I don't really give a shit, Paul. All I do is put it in and terminate. Hey, you do you, boo. I'm just saying, I have a thirst for wanting to know. I want to see it. That type of thing. All right? All right. Anyway. Okay, NEC 240.8 through 240.89 states the basic requirements for circuit breakers. So yes, so in exam, if you have a circuit breaker question, is asking you something specific to the circuit breakers. You saw us talk about it the other day when we said that a circuit breaker is rated 5,000 minimum unless marked otherwise. And if it is marked otherwise, it'll be on the circuit breaker, okay, as opposed to a fuse, which was 10,000, okay, unless it's stated otherwise. Here, if you have a circuit breaker specific question and it's about the overcurrent device application of a circuit breaker, then you're going to be in 240. Again, 240 is overcurrent. .80 through .89. It's not a lot. 9 different sections are going to give you all the details about the overcurrent device of the circuit breaker type. Okay, so just remember that for exam. That's the area you want to be if you have any questions on the circuit breaker. Okay, now, all these different types of circuit breaker and their characteristics and how they operate. You probably are well aware of these type of things, but you have thermomagnetic circuit breakers, and what they contain is a bimetal element in there. It's like a bar, and when you heat that circuit breaker up under load, excessive load, short circuit ground fault protections, all those type of things, what happens is typically the bimetal component works on overload. And so what happens is as it heats up, this bimetal will bend. And as it bends, it gets to a certain point where it releases the latch. So that's a mechanical mechanism. It actually holds it, and as the heat builds up, you're overloading it. What happens is that it will slowly bend, and then guess what? Trips, okay? So that's a thermomagnetic circuit breaker, okay? On a continuous overload, the bimetal element heats and bends until it unlatches the inner tripping mechanism of the breaker. Now, for certain types of breakers, however, this trip coil can be changed physically to a different rating. So some of the larger circuit breakers, the ones that you pay a lot of money for, some of those have components that can be interchangeable. So they can change different characteristics of the circuit breaker, okay? Then you have circuit breakers are available with electronic or solid state trip units, adjusts, and accessories. So this is typically what you're going to see that activates the other components like short circuit and ground fault protection electronically, okay, that are caused that, okay? Yeah. It is a good practice to turn the breaker on and off periodically to what we call exercise its moving parts. So that brings a question that people ask me, is it a myth to exercise the breaker? It is not a myth. I don't know that it's written anywhere that you do that. It's a good practice to do it. I don't know that I want homeowners just to run and do it all the time. But what I tell people is if I'm a home inspector, for example, and I notice something where it looks like the system is aging a little bit, then I might make a recommendation to exercise it once every couple months, turn it on and off, that type of thing. Maybe annually, turn it on or off, that type of thing, just to keep the mechanism working. Most of those breakers have internal grease. They're all built in. They have a dielectric material inside of them, okay? But again, over time, the heat builds up, that scenario. But I can tell you in most cases, if it's a bimetal and it heats up due to overload, it's gonna trip. That type of thing. There's no way it's going to hold back unless the spring or the activation system is totally shot on the thing. Okay, but exercising it again is recommended. But I say maybe once a year to do it. But you're certainly not going to do it when you install something and you walk away from it as an electrician. You can make this recommendation to your customer that they do maintenance. I do know an electrician out there I think he's no longer in business. He was retired. But he used to offer for all of his customers a program, and you may work this. It's business is business. He worked in a program where he did an annual inspection of all the systems that he installed, and he offered it to his customers. So not only did he do it, and a lot of times when he did it, he was done. He just did the electrical, and it wasn't there when the house was sold. But he would put that address and keep that information on his mailer. And then what he would do is he would contact once the house was sold or done or whatever, and he would offer an contract to people saying, "Look, we will come in and make sure that check your system, check your terminations, check everything annually for you if you want to subscribe to this service." And it wasn't an expensive service. It's basically the cost of a 1-hour service call. But if he contacted his customers and offered this package, then what he would do is he would come back annually and he would make sure everything's torqued properly. He would make sure that he sees no evidence of overheating. Some people will do it, some people will not. But if you're working the masses, then you can offer this extended warranty to people and you'll come back and you'll check on things, that type of thing. Okay. So, I mean, that's just what he did. And that is one of the things that he would do is he would talk about exercising the breakers, making sure that everything's in good working order, make sure there's nothing that's gotten loose or no arcing, safety precaution, those type of things. And he had quite a few customers that did that. And I think he did it at just a 1-hour fee. That's it. Now, if he found something wrong, then he would let them know what it is and they had the option to fix it or not if something was going bad. But he documented everything. Kid, look, there is no shame in that game if you're a contractor. You're not selling snake oil. You're literally coming back if it's an annual inspection to make sure everything's going good. Okay? I mean, you're offering it. You may find nothing wrong with it. Okay? So what would I do on that? If I went and did an annual inspection and I find anything wrong, I would charge them the fee. But then I have something that I probably would give them a coupon. And I would say, look, here's a coupon though. This charged you $89.95 to come and do an annual, make sure everything's good. Once a year, we'll look at everything, make sure you're good, make sure the breakers are good, everything's tight, no issues, things like that. We'll answer any questions about overloads or whatever, any tripping you may have encountered. We'll answer all those questions. You pay me the minimum 1 hour. I'm only going to be there an hour. But I'd give them a coupon that would offer them a discount on the next work. So, for example, I'd offer them, if my price was $79.95 for this annual to come, to look at things for them, to torque, make sure everything's okay, I'd give them a coupon that says, okay, you got to pay me. But if you call within the next year, if I need to come out and you want to do something, I'm going to give you a credit for this fee. So the $79.95, I'm going to give you a credit for any project that is over $150. Okay, so it only works if they call you back and they want you to do something like add recess lights or add something, and you'll apply that to their bill. All right, it's kind of a way to get that annual because they may need something further down. Look, you plan it however you want. I'm in business. I teach people how to understand how to get the most out of it, but you're not selling snake oil and you're giving them credit back for something. So think about these type of things in your business and make it professional. A nice coupon. Put your logo on there. Give the impression. Also, by the way, always give the impression that you're well established rather than just, a lot of people like the mom and pop, and I get it. But I'm telling you, based on my 40 years of working with people, always give the impression that you have a base back at home. Always make sure that you understand that you want it. Sometimes you can act like it's better to be a mom and pop, but at the end of the day, you also want to look very professional. And as long as your rates are reasonable, being professional, looking professional, I think that outweighs trying to convey to anybody that I'm just a one-man show, that I'm a mom and pop. I think that it's better to establish that you're a legit business with legit looks and that you're here and you offer programs, discounts, rebates, referrals. I think that it doesn't matter if you're a one-man show, you still need to offer those things and look the part. Look like you have a team of 20 people, okay? People say, no, I get more by acting like I'm just a one-man show. That's fine. I'm always thinking bigger picture, guys. I'm never thinking of I'm okay. That's the reason. Anybody ever asked the reason why me and my brother split up with AA Electric? I love my brother to death. One of the probably the most talented electricians out there I've ever met. Truly the MacGyver of electrical. The problem was we split and I opened up my contracting business because my brother was very content at being double A, me and Todd. That was it. And then we started growing and adding people. He didn't like it. I loved it. So in order for me to maintain the growth that I wanted to do, I had to leave and start my own electrical company because I had a different vision. It didn't mean that I didn't sub work for my brother or he worked with me or we still worked together. We did, but I had a different vision. And so I went down my vision, the path that I wanted to. I wanted to grow, that type of thing. So that's the reason that AA went that direction, is because we had different visions. And I wasn't letting anything get me away from the vision that I had. Okay. All right. Circuit breakers. The interruptive rating of a circuit breaker is marked on the circuit breaker's label. So there's a little label on the side of the circuit breaker. Okay. Remember that the markings and being aware of all these markings, and you're going to get all the minimum requirements for circuit breakers again over in 240. And again, for those that don't remember, the circuit breakers are going to be covered in yada, yada, yada. They're going to be covered in part 7. Okay. And I will show that here. And just so you can see it. There we are right here. Again, remember we talked about it. Is dot 80 through, okay, all the way up. Okay. Through 87. There we go. There's 89 right there. So not very much. Okay. Not very much. And so here's where you see all the information about the circuit breakers and the ratings and all of this. And we'll talk about series rating in a minute. But anyway, that's where you get it. Okay. Voltage range, there's used as a switch. Here's that interruptive rating. Remember I told you, okay, it is 5,000 unless it's marked otherwise on the breaker. All these are low-hanging test questions, by the way. So just know where it's at, that type of scenario. Absolutely. Word of mouth, Adam, absolutely. I have people that ask me all the time, they say word of mouth is your best way to advertise. It is, unless you have a really, really crappy method of delivery. Okay. So if you look the part, spend the money to get the shirts. Okay. Spend the money to look the part. Make sure you're wearing khakis or nice blue jeans that aren't all holy. You got a nice company shirt on, whether it's a t-shirt with your name, it's fine. Your logo on the back, that's fine. Okay. People say, what about tattoos? I don't give a damn about tattoos. That's becomes acceptable today. Some of the tattoos are pretty. I think they're neat. I don't know that I'd want to go to a job and have right across my forearm, it says Satan rules. I'm not so sure I'd want that on it because you never know what your customer is. They may be a holy roller. You know what I'm saying? That type of thing. So, I'm not going to discourage against hiring somebody with tattoos. I don't really care, but they have to be tasteful. I don't want stuff that might offend my customer because at the end of the day, you know how people say, well, it's my right. It's my right of expression. If you work for me, it is not. Okay. I'll give you a little hint. In my company, I didn't care about tattoos. I didn't care. Am I going to hire somebody with tattoos all over their face? No, I'm not. Am I being disrespectful to them? No, I'm going to put you in the office. I might teach you to do plan review. I might put you in the warehouse. I might do something else with you. I'm not going to not hire you. I'm just not going to send you out on a service truck to my customer. Because you know what they say is, it doesn't matter. I do a good job. It doesn't matter what the customer says. Bullshit. Bull poopy. Okay? When they say the customer's always right, they're not always right about the technical elements of it. But in my eye, when I interact with a customer, it's not that they're always right. It's just going to take whatever they say and redirect it into correctness. In other words, they say something that is incorrect. I'm going to say, well, I understand and I respect your position on that, but it's not necessarily correct. And I'm going to tell you why. And I'm not doing it to be, an a-hole. I just, I want us to have good knowledge of this. And this is why I'm doing this. And again, like I say, can you overcome a bad impression? Like, I am totally against people that roll up in their work truck with trash all over the floorboard, shit all over the back, just looking like a scumbag on wheels. Okay. I hate it. I don't feel like that's the way we should be portraying our profession. So I used to make sure my guys, I did a vehicle inspection, okay? And I always made sure that the vehicles looked good, tidy. And I did not expect them to clean their vehicles on their time, but I expected them to keep them clean on their time. In other words, if they throw crap in the floorboard or they disrespect it, they're going to clean it up. Okay, even if it's on their time. But when it came to like washing the trucks and things like that, or keeping the equipment clean, that type of thing, then I did not expect you to. I didn't mind if you came back and you washed it 30 minutes or an hour early, once a week or once every day, as long as it's clean. Your company, do whatever you want. But can you overcome a bad first impression? Yes, you can. But it's going to take you so long in that conversation, and you gotta identify that you've made a bad impression. So that's tough for a technician who's going out doing work when they hold up jeans or hold up. And you know what? Sometimes as a business owner, that's your responsibility. If you don't provide the shirts, which if you expect somebody to look a certain way, then you need to provide the shirts. I never provided the pants. I always said I wanted khakis or I wanted blue jeans without holes. I don't care if they're acid wash. I don't really give a shit. I did not want holy jeans. And he would say, well, the technician is so good, it doesn't matter. No, it matters. It mattered to me. May not matter to you, but it mattered to me. And if I'm the employer, it's what matters to me, right? Okay. But I had to provide the shirts. I provided the hats. I didn't make them pay for it. I provided the uniforms, that type of thing. Hell, I even paid for the work boots because I knew what impression I wanted to give. Now, if you have tattoos all over your arm that could be considered disrespectful, I'm not going to not hire you for that. I don't care. Okay. Same as people say, would you hire a gay person versus straight? I don't give a shit as long as they can do the work. Just don't share your personal beliefs or in the public when you're out working for me. Okay. So wear a long sleeve shirt. Okay. Don't talk politics. Don't talk religion. Don't talk, anything that would be inappropriate to my customer, because it's my customer. If you want to do that and you're a one-man show and you want to do that for your own company, you do you, boo. But this is never going to end well, because word of mouth is great. But the moment you give a bad impression, and it could be just that person is fickle, but you don't give them enough reasons to be fickle. You do what you're supposed to do because people go out of their way. And if social media doesn't tell you that, nobody will go out of their way to say great things about you. They will not go out of the way to say, hey, I had Paul Abernathy come over. He's a great guy. You should recommend him. I recommend him. They don't do that. For the most part, people don't do that. For the most part, when people are unhappy with something, they break their neck to get to social media. They break their neck to get to Yelp and all these other things to say some shitty comment, because that's what people do. Most people today, not everybody, they live in this world of negativity and hate. I've seen people post, I do not thumbs down videos. I do not thumbs down YouTube videos. Whether I like the video or not, the fact that somebody took the time to create it, I'm like, fine. Now, will I go out of my way to correct somebody that's saying something electrically incorrect? Yeah, even that offends people, but I'm going to try to do it respectfully. At the end of the day, I'm not a thumbs downer guy. I just don't believe it. Even if there's a video, it's accurate, but I just don't like it, or it's maybe a competitor or something. I just don't do it. It's just not my way. I don't do that. It takes a lot of effort to create content, so I'm not doing that. You know what I'm saying? All right, we went off the lesson. Sorry. All right. So a common violation of NEC 110.9 and 110.10 in your NEC is an installation of a main circuit breaker, such as a 100 amp breaker. So mentally think about it. So they're putting in a main breaker, and it's 100 amp. That is a high interruptive rating, such as 50,000 amperes, okay? While assuming that the branch circuit breaker with an interruptive rating of 10,000 amperes are protected adequately against a 40,000 amp available fault current, okay? Common misconception. If I have a main breaker that is rated as a 100 amp breaker, or it's a remote distribution panel, right? And I have it, and it is rated for 50,000 amps, right? And it has this, it's high rated, but the breakers that I put in it are only rated for 10,000 in certain, so it means I didn't look at the system properly. I didn't design, unless these breakers are series rated for a certain application and how they're installed in a panel, so it's kind of a structured hierarchy. One of the biggest things is that people do not look at interruptive ratings, right? And sometimes it's vice versa. They may have something that's higher at the end where they're obviously the fault current's going to be less, and that may be fine, but up front they may have a device that does not adequately, is not sized properly to the available fault current. And if that's the case, that's a violation of 110.9 and 110.10 of the NEC. So residential, they pretty much around the country tell you that the residential utility is not going to exceed 10,000. So most of the main breakers are 22,000. Okay, so that is going to be that level. And they're designed to work in series with the breakers that are in the panel that are made for that panel board. And those are typically going to be less, usually 10,000 or something marked on. Okay, that's okay. It's the way it's designed. And that gets us into what we're going to talk about, series rated. Okay, so if you have a piece of equipment, and most of the panels that you're going to run into with a main breaker and then a bus, and they got the breakers that snap onto the bus, okay, are going to be what's called series rated equipment. Means that the two circuit breakers or a fuse and a circuit breaker are connected in series. Okay, so you come in, power comes in, hits a main breaker, continues through that main breaker, comes down and hits the bus, and then it goes through the circuit breaker that's mounted on the bus out to the branch circuit that's out to the load, right? So series rated systems are less costly than fully rated systems because downstream circuit breakers have a lower interruptive rating and cost less than the upstream. So this is how most of them design. It's a cascading effect. So this is what you'll get in a panel when you see your panel has a 22 KAIC main breaker, but then you'll see that each individual breakers are rated 10, let's say. Then you've got what's called a series rated system. Whereas it would be much more expensive to have a 22,000 rated main and have breakers that go in it that have to be equal to or greater than the rating of the main. That would be a much more expensive system because those breakers to test for those ratings would be a lot more. It would be a lot more robust and that type of thing. So again, make sure you understand that, but most residential applications, even like commercial, what you're dealing with is a series rating application. Okay. Underwriters Laboratories lists series rated panel boards with breakers in the main breaker branches and fused main breaker. So this is very common. That's how they evaluate them. And that's probably what you're going to run into the vast majority of the time. Now, a disadvantage of series rated systems is that should a heavy fault current occur at any of the downstream circuit breakers that are rated less than the main, okay, the upstream breaker will also trip. So this is a problem, whereas if you have the downstream one and you get a lot of issues with that one, a heavy fault occurs, then there's a high probability that it can also take out, when it's series rated, that it takes out the one upstream. That is not going to be very conducive for selective coordination, okay, because we do not want to take out the one upstream. Okay, so that is one disadvantage of a series rated system. But for the vast majority of installs that you do that are not needing selective coordination, then probably the vast majority of what you get, and do me a favor, here's some homework for you. The next panel that you go install, look at it, look at the legend on it, look at the instructions from the manufacturer and see whether or not it says that it is series rated or not. And let us know on the next coffee hour that you went and did that. That's your homework. Write that down. Go look at it. Just saying. All right. Series rated systems where electric motors are connected. So in 240.86c, okay, notice we're in .86c, okay, and let's see here. I don't know if I'll see if I need to go over to it. Okay, so that is just for motor contribution. So that means what is the motor going to be giving to the circuit? Y'all heard me talk about the fault current and all that kind of stuff, the contribution. Yes, it comes from utility, but also motors can give a certain value back because motors really are just generators, that type of thing. So here's what it says. 240.86c in your NEC provides two requirements when series rated systems are installed and if the motor are connected to the system. Now, again, remember we said because it's series rated, you have the main, you might have a circuit breaker, a branch circuit that's going out to the motor. Well, it may have a series rated, so it's going to be less than the main as far as the amp rating, as far as the AIC. Okay, so it may be 22,000 main, 10,000 amp breaker. Okay, that's fine because it's series rated. However, if you're using it on a electric motor circuit, you have some caveats you have to be aware of. All right, so here's what it says in 240.86c. It says, do not connect electric motors between the load side of the higher rated overcurrent device and the line side of a lower rated overcurrent device. So don't try to put the motor in between it for whatever reason that you would try to do that. Okay, so don't put it in between. It makes sense. I don't know why. I mean, obviously there's an application where that may happen, but it says don't do that. Okay, and then it says the sum of the connected motor's full load current, remember FLC from 430.248, 249, 250, whatever you're dealing with. So that's the sum of the connected motor full load current exceeds 1% of the interruptive rating of the lower rated circuit breaker. So 1%, okay, so if it's a 10,000 amp, for example, and you're thinking, okay, what is 1%? Okay, so let's do 10,000. Y'all know this without doing the math, times 1%. Okay, is 100. Okay, so 100 amps. So it says the sum of the full load current, it says the sum of the full load current exceeds 1% of the interruptive rating. Okay, so if that case, for example, if the interruptive rating of the lower rated breaker, okay, so let's say you have a main breaker, then we have a breaker that's feeding a motor, and this one has 10,000 amp rating on it. That's what the series rating is, right? Cheaper panel, right? It says, for example, if the interruptive rating of the lower rated breaker in a series rated panel is 10,000, which would be a typical breaker, okay, then the 1% motor load limitation is 100 amps. Therefore, the full load currents of all of the motors connected between the series rated equipment and that motor must not exceed 100 amperes. So we have to make sure that we're looking at the motor that we install, looking at the FLC. So again, these are little nuances. If we're going to do that with the circuit breaker, we have to make sure. Now, most of the time, probably won't come into effect, but I can see where it would come in effect on a very large motor that you're going to have to be aware of. Okay, and we're going back to the NEC. This is what you got here. It says, again, this is verbatim of what we just read. And this is kind of an example here. It says, because I like to look at these enhanced, it says the requirements limit to use a series rated system in which the motor is connected between the line side protecting device and the load side protecting device. It says the exhibit shown illustrates the conditions where the series rating is not permitted. Here, the level of motor contribution exceeds 1% of the interruptive rating of the lower rated circuit breaker. Okay, so let's look right here. So right here, we have, this is a 22, so this is a series. So this is maybe your main breaker, and then it comes down on a bus, and then you have other individual breakers in it, right? Okay. Get what I'm saying? All right. So in this case right here, this right here is 150 amps, right here. Motor contribution, right? So this case right here, this is, because it's on a motor, it's being installed on a series system, that it is going to 150 amps is going to exceed the 1%. Okay, it's going to exceed the 1% of the current rating of the lowest rated circuit breaker. Okay, so again, this circuit breaker right here, 10,000 amps rated. Okay, we'll assume these are as well. Okay, this one right here, faults right here. Okay, and this is kind of just showing you the whole layout, by the way. Okay, so this is kind of saying, okay, this is what we've got. The motor's coming in through. So you have to look at the other circuit breakers that are on the system to make sure that if this motor is on this system and there are any breakers between it, which again, there are other circuits right here, that you have to make sure that this motor's FLC, which in this case it says it's 150, is not more than 1% of the rating of any of these circuit breakers. Okay. So again, we're assuming here that these are all 10,000, okay, amp rating. Okay. So all these are 10,000. So any motor on that scenario can't be greater in amps, FLC, than 1% of the rating, interruptive rating of any of the circuit breakers. And then all these circuit breakers are 10,000, okay? All right? That's just kind of an illustration. I think in most cases, unless it's really big equipment, and that's the case, I'm going to be pretty sure that when you're dealing with large motors that the AIC rating is going to far be greater than 10,000. Okay, so it's pretty much going to take care of itself, especially if you're dealing with motor control centers and you have the different devices and all that kind of stuff. So typically the designers are going to take care of that, but it's still good to know, and especially a low-hanging fruit type of exam question. Okay. All right, current limiting circuit breakers. Oh, where are we at? Current limiting circuit breakers. A current limiting circuit breaker will limit the let-through energy to something less than the let-through energy of a 1/2 cycle symmetrical wave. The label on the type of breaker will show the word current limiting, okay, to indicate the breaker's let-through characteristics. So if you have an application where it calls for a current limiting circuit breaker, similar to current limiting fuses, it's only going to let a certain amount of current through at a certain half cycle. So you have one full cycle, okay, 60 hertz, one full cycle, changes directions, okay? Now, one full wave, then what happens is you have 1/2 full cycle. So it's half of a full cycle operation, and that is its current limiting. So that means it's going to shut off very quickly, okay? A half of one full cycle, okay? Very quickly. So it's current limiting. It's only going to let the energy get. It's not going to let it run a full cycle. It's going to stop it, okay, at 1/2 cycle of the symmetrical wave, the sinusoidal waveform, okay? All right, now, cost considerations. And also should mention here, you're not going to do this as an electrician that's doing residential and light commercial and stuff. You're only going to get into certain current limiting type of circuit breakers specifically when you're dealing with some kind of commercial project with some piece of equipment that demands current limiting circuit breakers or current limiting fuses, and that is pretty much going to be dictated by the engineer or design professional. My important thing is that you know that you need to go to the NEC, and again, this kind of falls underneath that 80 to 89 area, whereas you're going to be looking at circuit breakers and the various characteristics for it. Now, where to find that? Let's see here. Hold on here. Oops. Okay. All right. Let me go on and get you here real quickly. Hold on here. I changed my screen, so I got to go find it here. Sorry about that, folks. Let me go back and find it. Hold on, folks. I lost something, so I have to go back and find where it was. I can't find what I was looking. I was something I wanted to look for. Now, but I will talk about is there's also a lot of times when you have large equipment, large electrical equipment that has these larger circuit breakers that will be current limiting. They're also current limiting, by the way. If you've ever heard somebody make a statement about the method of reducing clearing time or what other type of ways on a system that we can reduce the amount of energy, okay, that can be generated from a fault condition. How do we reduce it? So we called what's called a reducing clearing time. So there's many things that you can do that reduces it, that makes it activate much quicker so that the energy doesn't get to a position where it can be very dangerous. So it tries to limit the amount of current that can be generated or the amount of fault current that can be generated. So those would be current limiting. And it's also one of the many ways that you can do current limiting or reduced current in a system. Whereas you get a system that may ask for a reduction of clearing time. In other words, they go, look, I want to use a circuit breaker, but I need to clear something very quickly. Okay, well, one of the ways to do it would be use current limiting circuit breakers that are going to clear very quickly, that type of thing. Where do we get that in the NEC? We're looking here under arc energy. You might get some drawings or some project that requires that you do something, reduce that arc energy. Okay, so that is 240.87. Obviously, you're going to provide documentation on how this is achieved so the HJ can see that to make sure that you're applying it. Usually, the manufacturers of the equipment will provide this documentation because they're providing the type of a method of achieving this as part of the equipment. Okay, so you could show documentation on how this is to be done and how you're reducing the clearing time, or you could have a method of reducing it. And one of the following means shall be permitted and shall be set to operate at less than the available fault current. So you're going to be manually setting these to be set at less than the available fault current. And why are we doing this? Because this is also going to reduce the amount of arc energy. And what you can have all kinds of zone selective interlocking, all kinds of. Now, one we were talking about down here is all, one of the issues that we can do is right here is electrical energy active arc flash mitigation systems, which can be supplied by a manufacturer. Okay, that type of scenario. But one of the things that you can also do here is if you have a way to use current limiting, anything that can reduce the amount of energy may be acceptable to the AHJ as a method to reduce it. Just make sure you document it and the manufacturers give you the equipment to show that it is current limiting and all this kind of stuff. But you want to have it as documentation. And also that could be considered an approved equivalent means, that type of thing. So again, work with your manufacturers. This is only when you get a system that requires a reduction of arc energy, that type of scenario. Not something you're going to worry about, be honest with you, residentially, light commercially, and in most regular commercial projects. Big industrial projects, this is a big deal. Arc energy mitigation, that type of thing. Okay. We want to save installers. We don't want to hurt people. Okay. We want to mitigate or shunt that energy or keep it down in the event of an occurrence. That's what that would be all about. Cost considerations. So when I'm selecting breakers, fuses, and everything, it's all a matter of cost, but I don't want to sacrifice safety for cost. So selecting a type circuit breaker depends on several factors. That includes the interruptive rating you need based on what's provided by the utility, or downstream where the code requires you to take into consideration the available fault current. Now we have that required at a lot more places now than just services. So be aware of that in the NEC. A lot more places have a requirement to show the available fault current at a piece of equipment so that it doesn't blow up in your face, okay? Selectivity. Again, you might have to choose certain breakers, certain trip curves, certain applications based on the need for selective coordination. You may not need selective coordination, okay? But if you do, then you'll need to understand that that could affect the cost of your breaker. Space, okay? Some breakers are bigger than others. Some breakers can't fit. You have the thin style, you have the 1 inch, you have all different styles. So that's going to dictate what you need. And then, of course, cost, those type scenarios. But again, I say the lowest common denominator here is the cost. Get what's right. Don't cut corners when it comes to your overcurrent protection, okay? It's not worth cutting any corners for that, okay? All right, let's see here. All right, so let's talk real quick. Let's go look at our lesson, HVAC. We've talked about this before. Heating, air conditioning, refrigeration, overcurrent protection. You've heard me talk about it. It says check the nameplate carefully. And what does it say? It says a nameplate of an HACR, we call that hacker, says heating, air conditioning, and refrigeration equipment might indicate maximum fuse size, maximum fuse or circuit breaker, or maximum size fuse or HACR circuit breaker. I'm going to tell you right now, if you get a label that says maximum fuse size, if you're guys that are going out for older work and you're looking at it and it says maximum fuse size, folks, when it says that, you can only use a fuse in the system. Now, how do you get around that if the panel's got a circuit breaker? Well, typically all you require next to the unit is a disconnect. However, if it says maximum fuse size and you're coming back to do some work or you're doing some retro work and you're thinking, crap, how do I comply to this? Maybe I'm replacing it with an HVAC unit that somebody has used the old one. I don't know the scenario. But if it happens to say maximum fuse size only on it, then what happens is you need to make sure there's a fuse in the system. So I might take that pull-out disconnect, which isn't required to be fused. That's just a disconnect, but I might replace it with a fuse, okay? If the upstream was a breaker, I might replace that with a fuse in order to comply with what's on the nameplate. If it says maximum fuse size, then I have to have a fuse in there somewhere. If it says maximum size fuse or circuit breaker, then it doesn't matter. Then I leave the pull-out next to the unit and I use a circuit breaker that's back at the panel. That's fine. If it says maximum size fuse or HACR breaker, then all you're doing is a breaker that is designed to be used in an air conditioning application. It understands that volatile inrush. It's designed that way. I think most of the breakers today, circuit breakers, are going to be hacker rated anyway. So again, but this allows you, okay, this allows you to use a circuit breaker or a fuse in this protection. This allows only fuses. This allows circuit breaker or fuse. All based on what's written on the nameplate on the side of the HVAC unit, okay? All right? Very important, okay? So as I tell people all the time, if a nameplate says minimum circuit ampacity of 30 amps, maximum overcurrent protection of 40 amps, then I'm going to put a 40 amp overcurrent protected device on it because it's already been figured out based on 440, Article 440. Its manufacturers understand this. They've already figured it out. They've already done their testing. And I'm going to put the overcurrent based on the nameplate. Minimum circuit ampacity, I'm going to size it based on the minimum circuit ampacity. I do not have to follow the small conductor rules, okay, when it comes to this. Now, people say, well, wait a minute. Can I put a 12 gauge? Okay, and we'll just say that it's THHN, that it's THWN as well, and it's being run through a raceway to a disconnect, running down to the unit. They say, if it says minimum 20 amp circuit, okay, or let's use an extreme because here's where people get screwed up. Let's say it says a minimum of 23 amps. What size conductor would I need? It says maximum overcurrent at 40, minimum circuit size 23 amps. Okay, so we'll go look at the NEC, and then we're going to answer your question, Brandon, if you hung in there for me. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is a nameplate, so the minimum. So the first thing I want to look at is the ampacity of the conductors, right? So I'm going to go, first things first, I'm going to go to 31016 really quick. And again, we're going to assume all terminations, it's THHN, THWN-2. We're going to assume all terminations are rated 75 degrees C. Everything's rated 75 degrees. Most all the breakers are going to be, all the lugs are going to be. That's most common today. So I'm using THHN, THWN-2. It's good for 75 or 90, but we know because of we limiting the terminals to 75, because that's what our unit has, then we're going to be limited to 75. We can ignore the 60 because it tells us in 110.14c that if the wire's rated at least 75 and the lugs are at least rated 75, then I can ignore the fact that it's 100 amp, under 100 amps. I can use the 75. So important you understand that concept, okay? All right, so I'm going to go look here at the ampacity of a conductor, and I'm going to pop this out for you. And I'm looking here. I'm going to pin it. I'm like, okay, it's telling me everything's 75. So I'm going to come down and see, okay, so a 12 gauge is good for 25 amps. So remember what it said? It said, well, Paul, minimum circuit ampacity is 23. Maximum overcurrent protection is 40. You're saying, okay, well, the minimum size I can run is a 12. Okay, I mean, I know, sorry, right there. So there you go. So there's the 25 amps right there under the 75. Okay, so you're saying, well, Paul, don't I got to use the 60? No, because I told you the lugs were 75. Okay, that's what I told you. The wire is rated at least 75. So this conductor, now you're saying, yeah, but Paul, what about those small conductor rules? Because you see this little asterisk right here? It says, wait a minute. You got to go down here and look at 240.4D. All right, okay, all right, I got you. So we're going to go look. So we think we're going to be 12 because it's 25 amps under the 75 degree. So then we're going to go over to look at the small conductor rules, all right? And this is, by the way, going to segue to your answer, Brandon. So I know I'm keeping you here, all right? So we go over here and we go to the small conductor rule. So here's what it referenced, 240.4D, right? Now it says, unless specifically permitted in 240.4E or G, the overcurrent protection shall not exceed that required in 240.4D1 through D8. And we said 12, so here it seems like 12 would be limited to 20 amp overcurrent device. But because of this statement right here, unless specifically permitted, so we're going to go down and look at G, okay? G is overcurrent protection for specific condition applications. Now you notice right here, air conditioning. That's what we've been talking about right here. That in 440s, part 3, part 4, and part 6, it gives us the instructions for doing all this sizing. And basically, it says, you know what? Ignore those small conductor rules. Because as long as I have a conductor that can handle the minimum ampacity, and that's on the nameplate, which is 23 amps, follow the nameplate. Don't say, well, isn't that a continuous load? Don't I have to size that at 125? Stop! You're overthinking it. When it comes to the nameplate on an HVAC unit, just follow the nameplate. I need 23 amps, right? Okay, minimum. All right, so Here, it gives me the permission to ignore that 20 amps for a 12 gauge, right? And so under that provision, I'm able to do what? I'm able to use it at its 75, which has 25 amps. So I can put a 12 gauge in it. Okay, now, just so you know this, craps and giggle time, if I'm running non-metallic sheath cable to that disconnect on the interior portion, and then I'm switching over to THHN, THWN from the disconnect down to the actual air conditioning unit, then remember that I am going to be limited to the 60 degree because of the weakest length. And that is the fact that that non-metallic sheath cable is only rated for ampacity under the 60 degree column. So no matter what I switch to outside, it's irrelevant because I chose a weaker rated product, not an inferior product, just weaker as far as ampacity rated based on the table. And we know that 334.80 is going to limit us to the 60 degree. That type of thing, ultimately, at the end of the day, 60 degree. Even though the lugs are rated 75, because the weakest link is that NM cable. Now, if I ran Raceway all the way and I use THHN, THWN-2, then I run 12 and I'm good to go. That type of scenario. You with me? Okay. All right. So that's how you get that. Now, let's talk about Brandon's question. Now, Brandon asked a question, and his question, I got to read the question, Brandon, if you bear with me here. I gotta read the question so that I can make sure that I capture everything that you ask in your question. Bear with me. I gotta go find it. Sorry about that, Brandon. I did not have it saved, and I get tons of questions. That's why I'm having to scroll back, because I get so many questions that are submitted to me that I got to make sure that I go back and find your question. Bear with me, folks. See, it's a little harder on my phone to find everything. So, Brandon, bear with me, guy. I'm gonna find your question. There we go. Here's your question. Okay. So here's what Brandon asks. It says, I have another question I remember. It says, you have a load of 920 amperes. It's a 1200 amp breaker. It says, which set would you use? It needs to be in parallel. And it wants to know which set would you use, and it gives 3 answers. So Brandon, and I'll show you. Here's Brandon's question. Okay, right there. It's hard to see it, but that's his question. Okay, Brandon sent it to paulabernathy.com. Thank you, Brandon. That's the way to do it. It says you decide it needs to be parallel. Now, first thing you're always going to, as an electrician in the real world, you're going to make sure that you think about what the easiest thing to run from an electrician standpoint, right? It's much easier to run 500s than it would be to run 600s or even 750s. Even if I have to put another Raceway, it's much easier. I might, but at the end of the day, one of the key things you have to remember is that obviously, since there's an overcurrent device ahead of it, we're talking feeder, and you're running parallels for feeders, okay? Not the allowances that we have in services under 230.90, because we have to remember that for services, it's only overload protection, not short circuit and ground fault protection. Okay, so we do have some allowances for overload protection in certain applications in 230.90. That's not what we're dealing with. So here we're sitting in a situation where you're saying, okay, it's on a 1200 amp breaker. So we know it's a feeder application, it's feeding it. Okay, now, and your load is 920 amps. So the first thing you got to look at and say, all of the answers that are given are, it says 3 sets of 500, 6 sets of 4-aught, 4 sets of 3-aught, or 2 sets of 700. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to look at and says, there ain't no damn way I'm going to run 700s. I don't care if it's 2 sets, it's less Raceways, ain't no damn way I'm going to manhandle 700s. I'm just saying. All right. But now what we got to do is look at this from a perspective of what do we need? Now, here's the first thing that I want to tell you on this one, makes it easy. Ready, Brandon? You're over 800 amps. So you remember the rule in 240.4b, which says if you're 800 amps or less, you can go to the next standard size overcurrent device. But remember 240.4c, which says when you're over 800 amps, that the overcurrent device has to be equal to, or the conductors have to be equal to or greater than the rating of the device that it terminates into. So just because your calculated load is 920, we cannot use the next size up rule. We have to make sure that we have conductors that are at least 1200 amps because that's the rating of the overcurrent device that we're terminated into, right? Makes sense? Because we don't get to use the next size up rule here. Okay, so in this scenario, if we go to the NEC, and you may have an epiphany, Brandon, while we're watching this. So if we go to, let's look at ampacity so we can write these down. And I'll restate these for you folks, because this is a great question because it talks about ampacity. All right, and so we get down here. So let's go to 31016 really quickly. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I take that 1200 amps and then I start looking at my options here. Okay, so if I had 1200 amps, okay, then I'm going to divide that by 3. I'm going to divide that by 4. I'm going to divide that by 5, and I want to see what the best options. But we got the answers here, so we're going to use the answers to determine if we've got enough. So let's see here. Let's go down here. I'll go on and pick it out. Okay, so Brandon, the first one was 3 sets of 500, and we always assume copper unless stated otherwise, right? So I'm going down here, and I'll pin this. A little harder for you folks to see when I do pin it, but I'll show you. So let's get the 500s. So here's 500, and it said 3 sets of 500. Okay, well, we're going to be under the 75 because that's what our terminals are rated for, okay? And we're not adjusting for anything at this point. Okay, so we're just kind of looking at what we're doing. So we weren't given any ambient temperature, and we can get to where we think it's the number of current conductors, and we can look at that as well. But let's kind of work this entire thing out. All right, so first 380 under the 75. So what's 380 times 3? Because it was 3 sets of 500. Well, that's 1140. 1140 is not 1200. Okay, so we looked at that. So right, the next one was 6 sets of 4-aught. Okay, so let's see what 4-aught's rated at. All right, let's see if I can get it on here for you guys. Right there. Okay, there's 4-aught. All right, 4-aught is rated 230 under the 75. Right here. Okay, so it was 6 sets was an option. Okay, so I'm doing 230 times 6 is 1380. Is 1380 enough to handle 1200? Yes, it is. Right out the gate. Okay, so right now it looks like 6 sets of 4-aught of our options is winning. The next was 4 sets of 3-aught. Okay, all right, so 3-aught right here is good for 200 amps. Okay, so it was 4 sets of 200. So it would be 200. So 200 times 4, we know what that is. That's 800. Okay, not 1200. Okay, all right, so it's not going to be 4 sets of 3-aught. And the last one we had to deal with was 700. And 700, it was 460, and it says it was 2 sets of 700. For the fact that I'm not going to try to run that anyway, I would not do that one anyway. But for your example, so that's 460. So we're going to do 460 since it's 2 sets. 460 times 2, that is 920. Okay, all right. Now, in our case right here, we already know that the rules in 240.4c says that it's over 800 amps. The conductors have to have the ampacity. It's equal to or greater than the rating of the overcurrent device. So we know it's 1200. Okay. So in that scenario, the only option that we have is the 6 sets of 4-aught. That is our only option that's going to give us 1200. Now, savvy guys like you say that, okay, well, since it's 6 sets of 4-aught, then I'm not going to have more than 3 current conductors in each raceway. Nobody told me anything otherwise. So there's not going to be any adjustment or corrections. It didn't say anything about ambient temperatures, anything like that. Doesn't mean that you may not have ambient temperatures, but in this question, all it wanted to know about the ampacity. So the only plausible answer is going to be 6 sets of 4-aught. That's going to give me at least the 1200 that I need. All right. So just to round this out, you want to go look at the rule that I told you, right? And again, here it is, 240.4. And we're looking at C, overcurrent protection, right? It says where the overcurrent device is rated over 800 amps, It says the ampacity of the conductors it protects, okay, so on the load side of it, okay, shall be equal to or greater than the rating of the overcurrent protected device in 240.6, okay? So I have to make sure that I have conductors that can handle that 1200 amps. Okay. Now, again, we have some allowances for services because all we have is overload protection. You get some allowances back in 230.90 for overload. You don't have any short circuit or ground fault protections. It's just overload for services. Okay. And the utility folks tend to do some weird and wacky stuff. Okay. But from our perspective, once we get to the main breaker and we get downstream, we follow those rules to protect the conductors in 240.4, A, B, C, and D, and those type of things. And this is how you would do it if you're dealing with over 800 amps. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes total sense to you. And that's what we get out of that example. Let's go to some giveaways real quick, folks. I'm sorry to keep you over again, almost 2 hours again. I'm changing the name. It's coffee hours with the plural because there's no damn way that I can even stay within where I'm supposed to. I'm so damn long-winded. But here we go. That's one of my negative things. I get it, but I can't change me. Who's going to get a wire waffle? Adam. If it hasn't already packed up your stuff already, Adam, to go, we'll make sure the wire waffle is in there. But congratulations on an instant win of a wire waffle. I don't know. Jeff is, most of that stuff's already been ready to go. We're still just going through addresses so they can have one pickup from UPS or USPS, Postal Service. Okay. All right, let's draw again. For those that don't know what a wire waffle is, there it is right there. It allows you to keep from violating 312.5 in C, whereas you're actually putting too many cables through that opening. All right. There we go. Bean, who says he never wins anything. Rod, you have one instant access to Fast Tracks Tube. You may already be a subscriber. If you are, let me know. We'll spin again for you and give you a chance to win something else. Or we can add an additional extend your time out from wherever it is now, out a year from wherever you are now for your Fast Tracks Tube subscription, if that's what you would like. Okay. All right. I've let you folks go. We're going to do one more and give away. I kept you folks nearly 2 hours again. No lunch for Paul. Hashtag Paul gets no lunch. It's all good. What's up, Edward? I see you in here. All right, Jay. Our very popular NFC cards, which you can use for your own business. You can reprogram, do whatever you want. These type of things are very popular. We have a lot of people actually buying these from our website. And again, that's one way to contribute. These help us. Okay. But this is a coffee hour card. You help promote the show, but you can reprogram it if you want in order to share your business website, your pay portal, your link tree, or whatever you want. You can use that. These are easy to reprogram. No special software required. Easy to do that. All right. All right, folks. I am sorry I kept you over today. Again, hopefully you got something out of the day's lesson. Again, circuit breakers, very high level, not too deep. If you got any associated questions or you want me to go deeper on a specific topic, do me a favor. Go to paulabernathy.com. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. All you got to do is go there. If you're worried about sharing who you are, don't be. Dude, I don't care if you're Mike and you want to send me a question. And Mike Holt wants to send me a question. I don't care. We all are here to learn together. So use that portal, paulabernathy.com. That is the easiest way to get questions to me. Be as detailed as you can. Don't assume anything. Let me know what code cycle your question is based on. And that's a great way to send us questions. And it's sponsored by Wix and it's free. Just go to paulabernathy.com. All right, folks. Till next time, stay safe. God bless. And we will catch you on the next episode of Coffee Hour tomorrow, Friday. Let's go.